Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are opening an investigation into what is honestly one of the most chilling crime scenes in all of literary history. We aren't just looking at a famous poem today. We are examining a deeply unsettling nine-line masterpiece that outlines the literal termination of our entire planet. I'm talking about Fire and Ice by Robert Frost. On the surface, it just seems like a quick, almost casual observation. But when we look closer at the visual evidence of this fractured globe, we realize Frost has meticulously constructed a tense, thrilling atmosphere of pure planetary doom. Okay, let's dive right into this cosmic dilemma. Frost opens with the ultimate question: how does it all end? Does humanity go out in a massive, consuming blaze of fire or a slow, paralyzing freeze of ice? Notice how the canvas for this threat isn't a single city or country, it's our entire globe. There are no safe zones here, no physical borders, no localized coordinates to protect us. This is a universal threat that applies to every single person watching this right now. Now, to really understand the trap we're walking into, we need to know the architect who built it. Robert Frost is one of the most acclaimed American poets of the 20th century. 4 Pulitzer Prizes, folks, and he was an absolute master at a very specific magic trick. He used colloquial, accessible, everyday language, but he overlaid it with massive, crushing philosophical weight. He essentially took natural landscapes and used them as mirrors to reflect the absolute most complex and honestly sometimes darkest human circumstances. Notice the sheer uncanniness of Frost's tone here. First, there are no localized coordinates or physical borders. The setting is limitless, yet the atmosphere is incredibly calm, tense, and deeply philosophical. Imagine sitting across from a buddy at a coffee shop, and they just casually start discussing the catastrophic end of the world with the detached, matter-of-fact logic of someone reading off a grocery list. That quiet confidence in human self-destruction is exactly what makes this poem so haunting. The threat isn't some alien invasion. It's universal, and it looms right inside human civilization. The suspects: fire versus ice. So, who are the real culprits in this impending apocalypse? We're moving into the investigation phase right now to examine these 2 elemental forces accused of world-ending potential. Just look at the absolute visual duality Frost constructs here between these world-ending forces. It's a stark, terrifying contrast. You have hot, active, fast-consuming chaos on one side and rigid, cold, passive decay on the other. Both of these forces possess the exact same capacity for planetary execution, but their methods of destruction are complete opposites. Let's break down their psychological profiles. Fire stands for unbridled human ambition. It is burning lust, intense greed, and reckless passion. It moves so fast it completely consumes everything in its path, and it leaves absolutely nothing but ash behind. But then, consider the ice. Ice represents the slow, paralyzing ruin of cold, sterile hatred. It's apathy. It's cruelty. It's that rigid emotional detachment and severe isolation that just creeps in, slowly and quietly, and freezes the life out of a society until everything simply stops. The blueprint of destruction. Now we're going to look at Frost's master blueprint, revealing the specific mechanical tools he uses to build this apocalyptic trap. Notice how this interlinked rhyme scheme follows an irregular yet brilliantly cohesive pattern. Lines 1, 3, and 4 end with fire and desire. That's our A rhyme. Lines 2, 5, 7, and 9 end with ice, twice, and suffice, our B rhyme. And lines 6 and 8 give us hate and great, the C rhyme. This ABA, ABC, BCB structure isn't an accident. This interlocking rhythm physically binds the opposing symbols together right on the page. Frost is mirroring the inevitability of this shared outcome. Whether you follow the path of fire or the path of ice, the structural rhythm traps you in the exact same destination: complete destruction. Let's examine the evidence in the opening lines. Frost rates, "From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire." Notice the whispering flames here, the repetition of that S sound in "some say." It creates this whispering, almost confidential atmosphere. It's literally as if the speaker is leaning in close to tell you a dark, deeply personal secret about human nature, based entirely on his own first-hand experience with burning passion. Frost also employs anaphora. This is the repetition of words at the beginning of consecutive lines, like "some say." Now, don't just view this as a boring literary term. It's a critical piece of evidence. It brilliantly emphasizes how humanity is completely fractured. We are divided into little factions, theorizing and arguing over the exact method of our own demise, while completely ignoring the fact that we are the ones bringing it about. Then the poem shifts, and the dread really sets in. Frost writes, "But if it had to perish twice." Just think about the quiet horror of that phrase. It's a logical impossibility, right? The world cannot die two separate times. But Frost entertains the idea with that same cool intellectual detachment we talked about earlier. This logical impossibility beautifully illustrates his use of hyperbole, exaggerated statements not meant to be taken literally. By exaggerating the destruction to suggest the world could somehow be destroyed all over again, Frost frames the devastating equal potential of both human emotions. He's basically telling us that the silent, creeping hatred of ice doesn't need to take a back seat to fire. No way. It is just as capable of taking down human civilization all on its own. Which brings us to the climax of the poem. To say that for destruction ice is also great and would suffice. When you read this, the dread flows smoothly, totally uninterrupted, right into the reader's consciousness. It's a quiet but terrifying truth about modern society delivered without a single drop of panic. Frost achieves that incredibly smooth flow through enjambment, moving from one line to another without a terminating punctuation mark. Notice how from lines 7 to 8 to 9, there is no punctuation stopping you at the end of the line. The clauses link together, and this structural choice literally forces you, the reader, to tumble helplessly forward. You're accelerating toward the poem's apocalyptic end, perfectly mirroring how quickly humanity might slip right into the abyss of its own making. And it all ends on this one word, suffice. I'm just going to let that sink in for a second. So the crucial takeaway here is how Frost utilizes understatement. This is the presentation of something as being smaller or less important than it actually is. Suffice just means to be enough or adequate. Using a polite, incredibly mild word like suffice to describe the complete and utter execution of our planet, that is a massive, chilling, satirical bite. It's the ultimate mic drop. It says that world-ending hatred doesn't actually have to be loud or explosive. It just has to be quietly adequate. The twist, the true culprit. This leads us to the grand narrative twist of our explainer. The natural elements? They were innocent all along. Humanity actually engineers its own literal extinction. Uncontrolled greed, relentless ambition, and lust act as a wildfire consuming our societies. On the flip side, our cold indifference, our quiet grudges, and our complete lack of empathy act as lethal ice, freezing the life out of our connections. Frost's ultimate point is that we don't need a giant asteroid. No external celestial disasters are needed to wipe us out. Our own psychology is the ultimate weapon of mass destruction. Our analysis leads us to this incredibly powerful philosophical conclusion. Fire and Ice is a warning against self-destruction, demonstrating that our emotional impulses, if not managed with understanding and intellect, contain the potential to tear our world apart. This is not just century-old poetry. This is a remarkably urgent diagnosis of human nature that matters profoundly right now, today. So how do we disarm the bomb of our own psychology? Frost actually leaves us with an implicit survival guide. Step 1. Tame desires and practice moderation. Unchecked greed ignites destructive friction. Step 2. Cultivate empathy. We have to nurture warmth against isolation to melt away that cold hatred. And step 3. Find balance. Humanity's survival relies entirely on choosing collective logic over these destructive emotional extremes. Look around at the headlines, the division, the endless debates on how our society functions or, fails to function. How is the theme of humanity's internal danger, our own fire and our own ice, relevant in your world today? Are we currently burning with greed, or are we freezing from a lack of empathy? I really challenge you to look closely at modern society through Robert Frost's lens, because the